Good morning.
Morning.
Just ran in from a closing.
Yay.
Fun stuff. At least I had it set up where everybody can start popping in. How's your world going, Kathy?
It's fabulous.
Awesome. Anything cool happening in real estate in your market?
I'm not getting too many questions yet.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like it's all back to normal now that the hoopla is over, huh?
Yep.
Cool. What's up, Chris?
Hi there.
Good to see you, man.
And you? Saw you on the video, didn't see you live.
Am I not live?
No, I saw you on the video the recording, the old one.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
First time I've seen you live for a long while. Hey, before we get on to the business, did you get my last email? Your invite into the group didn't work. It wasn't actually a hyperlink, so I couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still use Top Producer, only because I run my whole business on campaigns and action plans, and
Right.
they allow me to customize them. But a lot of times when stuff goes out from there, I love that it sends emails individually. When I do a bulk email, it sends them one by one. But it's like any database, they all suck. You never love one of them.
No, I think you misunderstood.
Okay.
You invited me into the Facebook private group.
Oh,
But
yes.
I was hacked on Facebook about 18 months ago, lost my account. And as a result of it, a lot of things didn't get picked up, which included that group.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
You sent me an invite, or Facebook sent me an email saying Brad Corn has invited you, but it wasn't actually a hyperlink in the email. I couldn't do anything with it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, I'll have to look at that. And
yeah, if you could just, frankly, anyone who's in the group can invite me, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
Or
only you
I think
and admin
I don't remember if you do a search on a private group, if you can ask to be a part of it or not, or if you have to be invited.
Yeah, it may be the admin has to do it. I don't know. If you wouldn't mind making a note to look at that.
Yep, I'll look at that again.
Thank you.
Sure. What's up, Mr. Whitehouse? Distinguishedly hidden behind that black hat. There's Mr. George.
Hi,
What's
George.
up?
Hi, George.
You got any more shows you're doing in the business, or are you just a real estate agent now?
No, I actually retired from the Philharmonic a little over a year ago, so not as much with that anymore.
Hello.
Hey, Billy, what's up?
Oh.
Doing well. How about you?
Yeah, we got Susan in the house. There's Sharon hiding in the shadows. Harlan, buddy, how are you, man? Good to see you. And Glenn. All right, I guess we'll kick it off and get the conversation started since we're all here. So for those of you that didn't get the invite last time, I'm finding out more and more how much I was just explaining to Chris that Top Producer is what I still use for my databases because I live and breathe by the action plans and I can completely customize them. And actually the one extra thing it does for my local real estate is it will print letters to my printer that I can actually see the letters before they go in the envelope and chicken scratch notes on them. And I think that that's a huge thing in my business is every time those letters go out, the phone rings from somebody who got that letter last week. I might send out 100 and might get a call or two a week from it, but it's my way of doing my mailings versus mass. Anyway, I love that it sends them out. It sends a bulk mail if I want to send the whole group something, individual emails, but now Top Producer does get tagged sometimes as a spam source, and which is why they limit how many can be in one email, but it sends them out individually. So anyway, when I rushed and quickly threw that into Gmail and just copied and pasted everybody's name and threw it in the to field, I mean, I'm sorry, guys. There was no way to stop that crazy train once it hit. I I could not do anything without doing exactly what was driving everybody crazy, dinging your phone up, trying to get everybody to stop. So I just had to let it die out, and I apologize. That was a rookie mistake on my part. All I know better than to just put everybody in BCC, and it puts it out. So anyway, the Gmail, I know you guys are all getting that. Even though, you know, there's only like 250 of us that have been CyberStars at one point. So Gmail will let that one roll out without considering it a bulk email or a group email. But once you start getting higher than that, that might be a topic to share on the CyberStars Facebook page, which is kind of like our chat room. I miss the old chat rooms where you could actually search for topics and pull up conversations and do all that stuff. I don't think Facebook does that yet. But anyway, if you can post some of the stuff you guys use for bulk mail and cost and your ROI and all that. So anyway, I think we'll have a few more people show up that wanted to be on. And if this goes well and you guys want to do it again, we'll do another one in a couple of weeks. And I think, you know, this format is cool for 10 or 20, 30 of us that show up here, and 10 or 20 that show up on the next one. We'll record it. I'll post it on the Facebook page so you can rewatch it, all that fun stuff. But so 2 weeks ago, it was really just the conversation around, you know, everybody at that time was posting all their NAR lawsuit reactions, and honestly, I heard a lot of just really basic stuff, which made me think of you guys, because it was like, you know, it's about relationships and it's about, you know, your value proposition and all this. And I'm like, man, I want to know what the freak the real agents who are selling and working are actually saying, and what are you guys faced with? And believe it or not, one of the agents that we have in St. Louis, um, she's a newer agent. Evelyn, you're good. She's a newer agent, and she's already run into her second one where they're actually in St. Louis already saying your commission needs to be negotiated in the contract. And I'm like, I haven't even seen it yet, but she's already seen it twice. Evelyn, I may mute you. Get my cursor back. Where did it go? Too many screens open. Thanks to you guys showing multiple screen action and all that stuff. I have my headquarters here, or my cockpit. Anyway, so she's already come across it twice, and she's a newer agent. So anyway, I'm just, you know, go to the experts. That's the way to do it, and see what you guys are sending out to your database, what you're saying to the database, how much it's showing up, what you're planning for in July or after July. So before I get started, I got a couple things I wanted to throw on the table, but I just want to see if there's anything that anybody else has come today, like you're hoping that, you know, even though as you're contributing, you want to throw one on the table. What do you guys want to get out of today's call?
I would say that in my case, it was covered to some extent in the recording of the previous meeting, which I didn't attend, but I've seen the recording. And my biggest concern, and in fact our biggest concern, we have our own brokerage now, and we've got 8 agents apart from me and the wife, who is the broker. So we've had a couple of meetings to talk about this, because a couple of the agents are very fearful. We've got a couple of rookies who know not much about any of it anyway, so it's all new, thrown at them at the same time when they haven't yet taken a buyer agency agreement anyway, and so on. As Andy Norton mentioned, he's in the same MLS as me, and we've actually had buyer agency agreements by state rule, and I think the wording is upon initial substantive discussion about real estate is the way it's worded. It's not like before you show a home or something. It's if you start having any substantive discussion about real estate, then from a buyer point of view, then you should take a buyer agency agreement. Frankly, typically that's not observed, and even in our brokerage, and I know typically, you know, other agents around the area, we always make sure we take one when we're writing an offer, right? Hopefully to become a contract, but whether we take one before has never been cast in stone, although the state rules did actually say so. Someone else was saying in the last meeting that I can't remember who. Oh, it was Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, someone was saying that they've been doing it for a while and it's an absolute rule and they're not even allowed to get any commission if they haven't done it up front and so on and so forth. I'm not, I think Andy Norton was saying something similar. He's about 50 miles to my east, but still in the same broad area, DC, catchment area, and same MLS. I heard you talking. I'm sorry, I was jumping the subject. I'll stick to what I was saying. The concern about taking buyer agency agreements and losing someone simply because they don't want to sign a buyer agency agreement, and therefore selling your value. I think that works fine if you're working closely with someone and you like them and they like you, and you see an ongoing relationship. The problem is a lot of them tend to be transactional. Someone's just calling you. We've got one of these electronic search things in our office window. So people on the street will just see something on there and they'll come in and say, I want to see that house. And it's easier to take it then because you haven't got to worry about relationship. You just tell them, well, that's how it works. If it's like taking a waiver for COVID in the day or something like that. But the concern is very much with all of us about if you've got a good, solid relationship, damaging that relationship by people not necessarily accepting and realizing the need to do it, and then how that translates if they go away and come across another agent who doesn't enforce it, who just says, yeah, no problem, yeah, we'll just do that later. And then that reflects badly on us, even though we were trying to do it right. So it's that fine balance between doing it right and not losing relationships and losing business. And that's biggest, in a roundabout way, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
That's on the conversation of building that trust. And, that's one of the foundations of our integrity is that we're following the rules and we're not going to break the rules. Our integrity is too strong to mess around with that.
Yeah. And I think, I'm just going to recap what you said, Chris. It's more about for those who are getting buyer agencies signed immediately. And there's two classes. One, I actually felt like, in my world, I've gotten real lazy on buyer agencies with my database and the people I'm in relationship with, because I know that they're with me and I do get that signed at the time we do an offer, that first offer, right? But secondly, man, you want to talk about transactional people? I've never experienced anything as many transactional people as we have today since COVID, that it's like you could have this amazing transaction with somebody and they blast you with a 1-star because, I had a seller sold her house in a week and a half and an offer came in 5,000 under and she was like, this is great, I'll take it. And so we dropped her price in MLS 5,000 just for backup offers while she was accepting the offer that was 5,000 less, right? Trying to get her more offers. And I got blasted with a 1-star because she thought some neighbor told her that I sold it to a niece of mine and got her to drop her price and take less money. And it was a co-op agent. I wasn't even involved. And like, I addressed it just like what I learned from you guys. It's like, hey, if you get a negative review, address it instantly. So I called her and she's like, well, and I said, I think you got the wrong agent, figured out her story or something's wrong here because this was a smooth transaction. I'm looking at our notes and everything was great and you loved everything. And she goes, yeah, that's just what a neighbor told me. And I was like, well, can you fix your review? She goes, well, you can. I'm not going to, but you can do whatever you want with it. And I'm like, well, I can't do anything with it. So it was like that point forward. I'm like, God, even when you do a good job for somebody, we're in and out so fast with technology that you don't even get the chance to build a relationship or anchor that trust and all that stuff, even though they probably did during the transaction. Anyway, so I think that's a great question. So that's one. We'll come back to anybody who is getting buyer agency signed every single time before you, like at the instant, or you're really close to that, and or how you're getting those transactional people to do that. Because the obvious is it's law now or whatever. I know we can use that, but I just want to hear from somebody that's doing it. Second, I just want to make sure, is there anything else that anything's burning that we want to get on the list? And then we'll come back to that. Anybody have anything else they want to absolutely try and find out or take back out of the call today?
I'd be curious to see how people are approaching or their ideas of approaching buyer agency come July, whereby what kind of demands are you making on someone signing a buyer agency agreement? And the reason why I say it is I've never used one, and it's not mandatory in Nevada at all. And the vast majority of agents that I know don't use them. I've found over the years, brand new agents use them because they're part of a team and they're told by the team leader they've got to use them there. And I saw an interesting video. I think I posted it last week on your on the chat room that one of the coaches, I think he's in Missouri or whatever, but anyway, he talked about how he saw this whole business of change in buyer agency being the downfall of teams for that very reason. And he also mentioned that, and that's a good point, that he saw it as a very big disruption for reload companies. Let's face it, they rely on, if you get a reload client from a major firm, then they're basing their fee on what they suppose you're making a very large commission on it that way. So that's going to be, there's no, that assumption that you're making that type of commission is going to be gone in the future there. The other thing I've found, we talked in our own office in the last week or two is, and I had this situation this weekend where I had a call from a buyer who I not met before, wanted me to, he wanted to make a backup offer on a property we sold last week, and I explained to him the situation, and we arranged to meet this past Sunday. I knew exactly what he was looking for. Like so many people, he's coming out here from California, selling a larger home. Is going to be, they still look at Las Vegas as being bargain basement compared to LA and San Diego and Orange County. So, but I explained to him, what we're doing today. I only showed him two properties that come July or August, it's going to be very different. It might cost you a lot of money to do just what I did today. You'll have to sign an agreement stating that I can't show you any homes without an agreement signed up front, and there'll probably be a fee involved for it that way. So that seemed to be very eye-opening to him. And he's a business owner. He's a sharp guy. I'm sure he's read these articles in the paper about it, but it's just somewhat surprising to me. I mean, the broker of our office happened to do a seminar last week, and one of the things he mentioned is, talk to your buyers that are on the fence right now that are waiting. Think about that. That are waiting for any reason to later this summer, because it's definitely going to be costing them more money to wait right now.
My view on that, and of course it's all opinion and we don't know how it's going to pan out, but my feeling is that we're all realtors, not just representing buyers, but listing homes as well. And we all know that if we're a listing agent and we fail to persuade the seller to offer something to the buyer, even though we can't put it in the MLS, we'll have some ways of communicating that in due course. If we either don't bother to try to persuade them and just do it on the basis, hey, I'll just charge you 2.5%, that's all you got to pay, because the buyer can sort it out themselves with the buyer agent. We know we don't want to be in that situation if the boot's on the other foot, right? So I mean, I suppose there are people who only list homes, but the vast majority of people work on both sides, and even as dual agents in some cases. And I can't believe that the agent body in general is going to allow it to become what some of the naysayers are forecasting, which is that buyer agency commission is going to, sellers are not going to pay it at all. Buyers have got to start paying it, and agents are going to get screwed over because they only want to pay 0.5% or 1% or what. Sorry, I think you were talking about apples the other day on the broadcast. I can't see that happening because the agent body in general is surely going to stop it happening, because if an agent takes that stance and becomes that listing agent who is unsociable to the rest of the network, he's going to become an outcast. He's not going to get his listing sold. Is that fair? I mean, we can't guarantee it, but I can't believe a listing agent is going to become someone who never ever has his listings offering buyer agency commission.
No, it's not going to happen that way. But I think we're approaching it from a transactional way when we need to look at the future and the way that, you know, I was reading an article from Jamie Dimon a couple of days ago, and, you know, he's talking about when the interest rates come down, which eventually they will, when the administration stops, the house prices are going to skyrocket again. We still have a major issue with the lack of inventory, and that is not going to change for the next decade.
Dude, if you guys don't have it already, I have been fortunate to have a very busy couple weeks. I've written, I think, like 8 contracts now. I'm starting to lose track, and not counting anymore. But out of those 8 contracts, 3 of them have had multiple offers over asking, and the dang in its present condition form is beating us out. And appraisal gaps are starting to show up again, and we're not even in summer yet. I think this summer, if it's not in your market yet, I think it's coming. And if you're already thick in it, it's because I'm just now starting to go into it. We're usually a little bit behind the rest of the country, but
we're seeing it. It's definitely picking up quite sharply here over the last 5-6 weeks.
yeah, 02, we were in that 10 and 20 offers, 50,000 over, removing everything, which when we're representing the buyer, that sucks. We're representing the seller, we love it. But it faded down to where, you know, even though the inventory was low, the interest rates went up enough that it slowed it down to maybe you had 1 or 2 if it was a really good deal. And the houses that needed a lot of work are sitting on, they're sucking wind, and they're going to get an offer a few thousand less. And you got your inspections back in. And now we're back up to 2 to 3 on every single, well, on 3 of my last 8. We're up against 2 or 3. And I think in the next month, that's going to be back up to 10 or 20. Going crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Brad, Cindy.
What's up, Cindy?
Hey, on this side of the line, anything under 600 is getting 5 to 8 offers. Because I've had my 2 listings that I've had recently, they've just gone like crazy with 15% above. And as a buyer, if you don't even go there, you don't even get it. But over 6 and a quarter, that's not the case. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, so what we are, I'm on the wrong side of the state line. We're in the same market, really, but I'm on the wrong side of the state line because it's under 400. We're seeing that, maybe 350, and yeah, anything over 350 and up is where it starts to slow down. So I should just move over there with you. I don't know why I stay here.
Just send me your referrals and I'll send you a referral back.
Yeah, somebody's got to service your Missouri referrals, right?
That's right. I just much over there.
I just drove to El Dorado Springs. I said this on the last call. I've been going an hour and a half to 2 hours each way, getting sucked down all around the state because everybody's moving out of the city. And nobody's servicing these leads down there, and they're handed to me pre-approved buyers from these lenders, so I have to service them. I just got back from an hour and a half drive each way to El Dorado Springs to close a kid on a $130,000 house. It's like, and so you guys talk about fees, so I want to add this in because it's part of this conversation. So I think we're not talking about apples or anything here. I'm talking about admin fees. So I don't know if that's like, does anybody know if that's something taboo to talk about? I don't know if it is or isn't. I can just tell you, I charged 1 apple for an admin fee. I'll just leave it to apples. 1 apple for an admin fee to cover my assistance costs and things like that on top of whatever commission. And I learned that from you guys, right? And then the new company I'm at, they charge that apple to them, and they charge that apple to the client, or they charge that apple to me to process my file, and they charge that apple to the client. So I had to double my apples, and now I don't get an apple. But just like when I went to this one, I went ahead and added another apple on there because I was driving an hour and a half each way, and because it's probably like a $1,500 commission check. And you know, you start thinking about it, everybody's charging more for everything that costs more to do. And he didn't have a problem with it. I don't hide that. I show it to him up front. It is amazing. Like, I thought my Apple was pretty darn good and I'd worked out the script. And of course, I felt comfortable charging the Apple because I brought confidence, or I brought value. I had to double that Apple. And ever since I've been here for now almost a year, I had to double that Apple. And I have only had one person out of probably 30 sales really like quiz me about the apples, the extra apple or both apples. And I just explained it. It's just the cost of doing business today. And the company charges this. I don't get it. And it goes away. I mean, it's just the cost of doing business today. And I'm just shocked personally that it's rolling that smooth when I've almost tripled it now, you know. But it is just the cost of doing business. And of course, you
Right.
can't charge that Apple on a VA. So you just, but the company waives the Apple too. Oh, go ahead. I think somebody was going to jump in. So, all right. So we got the buyer agency. If anybody's got anything on that, here's the other things I wanted to throw on the table. And if you got anything else, jump in right after me. But my big thing, and we are definitely going to probably have this call going on for a while. And it's not really necessarily this call. This is just like our normal call, just to get together every couple weeks and share what's going on. I'm curious from this level, technology, you know, I go back in the old days when we talked about QR codes on the yard signs, and then we talked about those 24-hour recorded messages. Man, that was the best lead capture tool in my entire career that I've had, because I was capturing 400 phone numbers being caller ID captured back to me, and we could call those buyers when they were driving by our properties. And in today's world, you know, now it's like with Google and the internet and everything else, shoot, nobody's calling any sign calls, or at least I'm under that impression. If you guys are seeing something different, I mean, there's nothing to put on your sign to capture these leads now. And even our websites, everything that's farming out to realtor.com and Trulia and all that crap, it's going to somebody else. It's not even coming back to us. So because I have gone out, and here's a great practice for you guys if you haven't done it. Go Google your name and put realtor behind it, or just Google your name and maybe like a listing name or whatever. And on Google, when it pulls up, hit every single link and fill out the form like you're a buyer, and see who in your competition calls you back or doesn't call you back. But I remember Alan used to say, yeah, when I tried to buy my first house, shoot, I called 5 realtors and never heard from 4.5 of them, you know, for a week and a half or 2 weeks. Anyway, so my question is, if here's my topics, and just to throw them on the table along with the buyer agency thing. If NAR were to go away and our code of ethics became something that we don't have to abide by, has anybody thought about that? Second thing is, with no MLS, the thing that, as much as like a central MLS would be great, are we going to be able to get the whole world on one MLS? I don't know. But if our MLSs started to go away, and just thinking ahead of it, they may never go away. But one, how will we market our listings? Two, how will we market that how are you guys planning on marketing your co-op commission? Because see, I charge an apple and a half, or I mean, I offer an apple and a half above everybody else's apple in my market. I've done that for 30 years, and agents literally will pick up the phone and call me and say, I just love showing your listings because I got that extra half an apple there. And I explained to my client the value of offering the extra half apple is going to get you better offers, more people to see your house. They never take your house off the list for any reason, but that's gone for sure. That's gone. So how am I going to market these apples now to the agents? Do I blast out a mass marketing thing? How are we going to do CMAs? Like, to be accurate on pricing and not just be our opinion, but to actually show supply and demand and sale prices and concessions and all that stuff, right? And then
You mean if there was no MLS, you mean?
if there was no MLS,
Yeah.
where are we going to get our sold data from? And then secondly, like thinking ahead, because again, you guys taught me to do this. I'm like way ahead of the market. It's like, do I download, like right now, I can go into my MLS and they got this test. Cindy, you'll see it. It says test something under export. Like I could pull up a whole neighborhood, do export, and it's like a test something. But that thing kicks back a spreadsheet of every detail and every field on that listing of every house that's ever sold since we've had our MLS. It's like, man, do I need to start downloading that so I at least for the next 5 years have data from that would be somewhat current for the current market, right? So what are we going to do for CMAs and accuracy on pricing properties? So anyway, those are kind of some of the things that I just kind of think of. Anyway, I'll open it back up.
Well, I'm just going to question that. Have I missed something? We all talk about NAR and what the future is there, and there's already a couple of rival MLSs sort of taking form, associations taking form, but I haven't come across the concept that MLSs will disappear. Have I not been listening?
Well, I mean, why would we have them if we can't even advertise the co-op commission on them? Well, and here's the second.
Well, because we all know that's a barrier and a pain in the neck if as it is not going to be allowed from mid-July, but locally, and we've talked with various other realtors and brokerages locally. The people are talking about putting it in agent remarks. People are talking about perhaps some sort of code where you make some comment that indicates gives a clue as to the sort of that there is something offered. You know, call me because I know it says 0, but it's not, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I saw, and I can't remember which. One of the many newsletters, it wasn't Inman, but one of the several newsletters that I received about real estate in general, and they're all buzzing over this subject, of course. I saw somewhere that there's a guy, and I can't even remember where it was, is actually starting to create a new sort of MLS on the basis that it will not be under the rules, but will be able to describe or divulge the commission and so on. Did anyone see that? It was perhaps 10 days ago, something like that. But I can't remember where I saw it. I've gone through some of the old newsletters to see if I could pick it up, and I can't find it. I wasn't imagining it. The idea was that it would become an MLS, but it'd be a nationwide MLS. But it would not defy association rules or whatever.
Well, I think the ruling says that there can be no third-party aggregating sites that are sharing that.
Yeah, that's what I've
Ruling, you mean the NAR agreement?
Yes.
I think so too. Yeah.
No
And again,
third-party sites. Oh,
that won't
I thought
pass
it was not in the MLS, did it? I don't know.
No, I mean, that's still a third-party site. I think it has to come down to the brokers are going to have a system, and there'll be new software companies that come up that allow, and whether it's something, you know, when someone schedules a showing through transaction desk, I automate the or showing time. I just automate a letter that goes out. This is what we're offering on this house. And each one of that has an automated letter.
Yeah, and that's only good for the ones that actually find it and want to show it, not the ones that are looking around. So, and Chris, what it is again, none of this is done until July, and we find out what really sticks.
Right, but everyone's got to plan it. I mean, not us as agents, but the organizations that are doing this, whether it's the MLS or the association or whatever. And I know all the regional associations are under the umbrella of NAR anyway. They've got to decide things ahead of time. They can't
right,
wait.
But again, it has to come down to the broker level, and like using KV Core. I was talking about automating KV Core with its texting option, and you can put in the remarks text this short code to KV Core, and it'll bounce back what the offer is.
Well, I guess a lot of people use showing time to book appointments. It's not something local
Showing
here.
time
No one knows what I'm talking about, is it? Most of our listings, you know, you'll use showing time so that people can text or email or whatever to request an appointment. They see what's available and what's not available and then request it. And then we can either as an agent respond and say, yes, that's okay. Or we can actually have the client, you know, if the client actually is at home and wants to arrange when it's convenient, they can respond. And I'm wondering if that would be a place where it could be in. You could also give lockbox numbers and that sort of thing.
So here's the issue though. If you list a house today, only the people that are looking for it will see it. But if there's agents that, you know, don't think they're getting paid on any of them, what good? So like, are we gonna, no, not that we shouldn't probably be doing this on every single listing anyway, but your listing somehow gets in front of every single agent every time you list a house. And what I used to do with my agent flyers that I dropped off, we actually had a delivery person that drove around to 70 offices around Kansas City, and we put flyers in their boxes, and we would schmooze the front desk gal, whatever we had to do to get that flyer dropped off. And I would send out, I think it was like 7,000, 8,000 flyers every time I listed a house. And the real big was the commission co-op, because my extra half apple is how I've kind of niched myself. And getting back to that, to make sure it gets in front of everyone, to know they've got that every single time we list a house. I mean, it's going to be like, holy crap, they're going to start a toilet paper roll on our flyers on our houses every time we market a listing. And does it just go in the blast email flyer things? I mean, how many of those do you look at? Right.
I mean, what have you heard as far as putting in the remarks brokers protected? We're not disclosing what it is, but if we do that, would that be allowable?
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't think we're going to hear anything on that until July, when it actually becomes like law. I do know our MLS is already starting to take the co-op commission field out to be ready. Maybe Cindy knows more on that. And you had something else to share too, Cindy.
Well, I'll share something else after we get done with this conversation, but yeah.
Okay,
I agree with you in reference to, I know our MLS is talking about different options. You know, of course, like you said, Broker Bay is who we use here. They won't even allow them to put it in there, which is like the showing times and stuff. So when I was talking to a couple of people up at the board, they said they don't know exactly what that is until they get the final rulings, but they're trying to come up with some options for us instead of doing it only at the broker side. I don't know.
Cindy, what would be your opinion of having that automated reply in showing time, that once they schedule the appointment, that it sends out a PDF that has the
automatically schedule it if you don't know? Because how would you tell your buyer when you're talking with them, hey, you want to see property A, property B, property C, the commissions on A, B, and C are X, Y, and Z, and therefore this is how we have to handle it, and we don't know what they are until we schedule it. I don't know if that's...
Well, I think that goes back to having that conversation before when we get the buyer's agency contract to say, you know, this is, you know, we will credit you anything that is cooperated. In the case that it's not cooperated, are you able to cover and have it figured out all up front, so we don't have to necessarily nickel and dime at each transaction or each showing, but they know up front what's so. And if it's not covered, well, then that just becomes part of the negotiation that they're going to have to tag on to the offer.
But I also think you have to discuss that before you walk in that door with them to XYZ house, and just let them know, hey, this, what they're offering is A, and, you know, just so that, you know, I've always had that conversation with people up front, because I'm like Brad, I've always had an extra apple for transaction fees on it. But I think it's just one of those things that I think it's got to be discussed at almost.
Well, and Billy here, I'll throw you something I do know about showing time, because when we went to Broker Bay, I'm telling you, I hate it. It's ridiculous. I don't know who makes those dang decisions when we leave something that works great. But anyway, on showing time, what you can do in there is you can send a message to the entire MLS. That was one thing. Like, I would send a message to everyone who showed the property. When we had an offer coming in, I would just exclude the agent that sent the offer, and I would send everybody else a message. But I know there was an option. I'm pretty sure there was an option that if you were doing a price change, or in this case, just listing a property, that you could send it to the whole entire MLS. Again, it's a blast email. They may or may not pay attention to it unless the subject line is 5 apples when you show this price, right? So I think
mean,
Remember,
I
the
mean,
new rules-
logistically, think about that. When I'm sending out a blast and every agent starts to get wind and send out blast 5,000, I mean, you're going to get a couple hundred, blasts a day using that methodology
Oh,
of
yeah.
stuff you're not interested in.
Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
So I think it's a challenge. No matter what we do, is just figuring out how to make it work.
So we have a task that we're going to give Terry Eisner, right? Terry, I see you snuck in the room. I'm glad you got the link. She's going to find all the cool apps, and she's going to give us like 30 of them next time we talk on things we need to use to advertise our property. I miss
like that.
those,
In
Terry.
your dreams.
I miss that fire hose, Terry's fire hose of just like app after app after app.
Just give us the top 3 that are actually going to stick around and be assimilated.
She can't do top 3. She's never been able to do top 3.
You see, perhaps I'm just gullible or naive, but listen, we're talking as a group. Every brokerage is having this conversation all across the country. I can't believe something isn't going to happen, either a change in the agreement, that tweaks the way it can be disclosed or something, even if it's not in the MLS, or they'll perhaps just retract that restriction and allow it in the MLS. I never understood why that was there in the first place. I understand the argument, I don't agree with it, but I understand the arguments that came out in the legal debates and everything about sellers paying buyer's commission when they're not being represented, blah, blah, blah. But I thought taking the quoted commission, the offered commission out of the MLS didn't address any of the issues except making it difficult. And I can't help believing that, given that every broker in the country and every agent under every broker in the country is having this same puzzle. I can't believe that it won't be resolved.
I think like a lot of the union conversation going on, I think there are ideologues that believe that, real estate should not be commission based. We should just be a flat fee. And this is the way to, circumvent that and to press that.
All right, so I know, Kathy, if you wanted to jump in, I want to make one comment on that. And then if Kathy wanted to jump in, I'll let her jump in. I just saw a couple of people unmuting for a second. But so when you say flat fee, actually what my brain goes to, guys, is thinking like a law firm. If you think like the highest, and what made me think of this is some attorneys get a heck of a lot more money for doing the same exact thing as other attorneys, right?
Billing
And
an hour.
right. And if I am,
Oh yeah.
and here's the other thing, it's like they're doing their billable hours and it's being billed to like you could have one attorney billing the other party's attorney for the stuff that they've done, and somebody's paying that whole bill. I mean, I see something like that maybe coming out of it, and everybody's going to get different rates based on how good you are. Because if you had Baldwin just hit the news again. If you had a murder case against you that you did not murder somebody, are you really just going to go to the attorney that's like the cheapest, or are you going to find the best damn attorney on the freaking planet and you don't care if it costs $1 million? I mean, you could go to death row if you don't win this case. So that's where I kind of envision something like that, maybe where it's billable hours and my hours may be an apple more than somebody else's billable hours in the marketplace based on that value thing we were talking about. Anybody else have anything to throw in on that?
The only problem that you're going to have with that is the little buyers, that are the first time home buyers or just the lower end of it, probably already strapped for money anyway. So
it would be
this entire thing is hurting the first time buyer.
It's hurting both consumers. But the billable hours for me for this first time home buyer go to the attorney, and they're taking care of all that with their client. It's like not that they lost the case and they're reimbursing me for my attorney fees. That's the way we're going to set it up, is what I'm thinking. Is still it will all look exactly the same, and those billable hours will be right around 5, 6, 7 apples, somewhere in there, you know? I don't know.
I mean, I don't mean to sound conspiratorial, but I mean, this is just benefiting the institutional buyers that are not slowing down.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy,
I
do you have
mean,
anything to jump in on?
I'm not yet. I'm
Okay.
just wondering what's going to happen.
Glenn, were you just clearing your throat earlier? You got something to throw in? I know
Well,
these people, they're
on
really
the-
nice that,
On the MLS, we have Houston MLS, which is the second largest in the country. Long Island's the biggest, and we've already gone to we already and take in San Antonio and Austin now. Dallas will be next, so we're pretty soon going to be the whole state. What I see is, I think in January, NAR is going to lose about half its membership, roughly. And I may be a little high, but it's somewhere in that range, because they're going to decouple the MLS with being an NAR member. Now, when that happens, people are going to say, well, why am I going to pay the dues when I can just join the MLS? I don't think the MLSs are going away. I think NAR is the one that's going to go away. Or
Well,
it's
if
going to be,
NAR goes away, and the true value of NRA is NAR is the PAC, and if that goes away, then it'll just accelerate, the downfall.
well, not
I
only.
agree with that. They're the largest PAC in the country in Washington. And they're pretty highly respected in that. And they're big in Texas too. Have a lot
And
of
the
money.
code of ethics. I mean, the code of ethics
Well,
to not
that's
pursue a listing that's already listed with another agent.
we're gonna be in the Wild West here come next year. It could be could get real ugly. But I think
Will we become like the commercial brokers?
well, that's exactly what it is, and that's what they've done on the commercial side. There's no commissions in the MLS. There can be. There's a feel for it, but generally it's left call agent. The other thing, and I really hate to say this, but we always talk about discrimination in real estate. When you don't have a unilateral offer, you're inviting discrimination, because what's going to happen is we all know the agents that pull their weight, hold their weight, and we know the ones that don't do any work, and we got to do all of it. And what's going to happen is those people are going to go out of business, because in which they rightfully should. But when you can make a different offer to every agent, and that's going to bring up some quote unquote discrimination. Maybe it's well deserved, maybe it didn't. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot of things that they haven't thought through on this that are not in what they really wanted. There's unintended consequences that I believe are going to happen. So I don't think the MLSs are going away. There's going to be the private MLSs. There could be we could end up with 5
Like
or 6
Zillow?
regional MLSs pretty quick, I think.
Like Zillow?
Zillow is primed to take it over. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They are.
In Houston, when we're the second largest MLS in the country, Zillow is getting 3 to 4 times the hits HAR is. Now that is a relatively new, I mean, that blows my mind, but they spend so much money marketing. That's what it is.
So here's what's interesting.
800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, on Zillow though, their stock actually plummeted farther than anybody else's stock. I didn't understand that. Second thing is hearing for like 5 years in a row they were losing money, and I'm just like, what kind of business can lose millions of dollars year after year? I just don't get the business model. But I hear
a lot of those losses were because of their flipping that they were doing. They were doing this private buying from sellers and then reselling at a profit, weren't they, when prices were going up? I can't remember exactly how it worked, but they were effectively doing a flipping exercise.
Well, we have to look at their long game. Their long game is to spend VC money until they get to the point that they achieve that monopoly.
Yeah.
And same with Uber, same with Lyft. I mean, they artificially deflate the prices in order to capture market share and make people rely on them. And then once they corner the market, they just raise it up.
All right, who else hasn't jumped in? I don't know if Sharon's sitting where she can jump in. Brian, you always got great stuff. Susan, Terry, Evelyn, and Harlan, you guys got anything to throw in?
I don't know. I've just been kind of listening here, and I've had multiple meetings with my agents regarding this, and all what you guys are saying are all valid concerns and all what's going to happen. I think the biggest thing as a broker, the biggest thing I had agents start calling me and say, "Hey, I want to get ahead of this. I start advertising 3% for a fee," and I'm going, Yeah, okay, who's showing it? Who's gonna show it?
I remember we have
That
apples.
one.
We have apples here.
Apples. I had people saying, hey, they're gonna do, 3 apples for everything. And I'm like, well, okay, who's getting other, how are you gonna get paid? Who's gonna show the property? Oh, I hadn't thought of that yet. I'm like, no, you're not, we don't want to do that. And then I started explaining this like you guys have, you guys are gonna be like a commercial agent. That's the way it's gonna be. And explaining what that meant. And I think those are the really big takeaways. And I too are looking for, gee, is there gonna be a way that we can somehow show somehow show what we cooperate or how it is, or maybe it'll be on our websites. I'm not sure. But I'm encouraging agents to continue obviously advocating for the the co-broke apples, because I think that's where it has to be. And I'll tell you that most of my experienced agents, I'll give you some feedback that I've had questions currently from sellers. Most of the sellers, they explain the way I've explained it, tell them to explain it. And the feedback they get is, yeah, whatever you think we should do to get it sold and get the most money, we'll do it. So they've been actually pleasantly surprised where people are actually, they're listening to them, and the people that are educated really kind of understand what's going on. And they know, they understand the whole concept of it's market driven.
Terry, you got something to throw in there?
Brad?
Well, I've been listening to all of this, and personally, I just feel that we need to be practicing our scripts and knowing about how we can be a better fiduciary to our buyers and not a functionary, and not be forced. We have to wait for the forms and what they're going to do. But meanwhile, we should all be preparing ourselves to take more market share because of the fact that so many people will be leaving. It just seems ridiculous. Also, NAR is having, or there's a meeting in DC that's going to happen, and it's the Realtors Legislative Meetings of 2024. I think it's May 4th to the 9th. So if you haven't contacted your representatives or anybody that you know that may be attending this meeting on behalf, and let them know your concerns about how you're feeling about all these changes, this meeting hopefully will open some eyes up there of people that don't really understand how to project what is actually happening, not what all the news is trying to force on us or to share. That is just outrageous. I mean, it's just stupid, some of it. So,
and to share the ripple effect and how it's going to impact.
That's exactly right. So I just, I don't know. Cindy had shared with me a really good letter about how to explain commissions. So I hope she'll share that with everybody there as well. And also to talk about the FinCEN law, because that is coming. So
coming, it's here, Terry. It's
Oh, I
starting.
mean, yeah, it is.
Yeah, start in
It's
January.
here,
That's
but you
right.
need to be sure that you get on top of that and
I'll
take care of
explain
that.
in a second.
You might talk about that for a second, because I don't think I know what it is.
Okay, back in 2021, Congress passed a law with the Department of Treasury that all companies, LLCs, S corporations, any of that, self-employed, there's like 33 million companies across the country that are subject now to report. And there you have to report who your officers are, and they have to be held accountable. So what that means is you have to report to the FinCEN site who is actually part of the ownership of the company. And you have until December 31st to get that done this year. If you don't, it's a $10,000 fine plus $500 per day plus up to 2 years of imprisonment. It is a pretty serious thing to be able to deal with. And it's basically, they just want where you live, your address, your driver's licenses, and all kinds of documentation from you. So I've actually listened to a webinar back in December, early December, and I can take some of the screenshots if you want and send them to everybody. But you need to do it. I started to try to do it about the end of March, and the site kept failing on me. And so it's just because there's 33 million companies trying to go through one site to become literally reported. So I can get everybody a copy of that, but it's basically FinCEN, that's FINCEN.gov. So, and if you make a move, you move from your current home or your office location moves, you have to update that within 30 days. So they're going to basically be working with the IRS to kind of be checking to make sure all this reporting is correct in 25. So just be aware of it. If you don't know, talk to your CPA. I can get you copies of recordings or any of the stuff about it, but it's pretty interesting. You only have to do it one time, but if any of your officers move a location, add an officer, somebody leaves the company, you have to inform them all of those changes. So
I'm surprised they're not getting
My
that
attorney
from,
contacted me and told me to do it.
yeah, I'm surprised they're not getting that from the commissions. Each of our state commissions have all that stuff, don't they?
well, this is not part of the state, this is federal.
Yeah.
So, you know how they want us to do everything ourselves, unfortunately.
Well, and
So,
let's face it, NAR is a little busy right now. The NAR should be doing this, but they're a little tied up. Now in Texas, if you're a corporation, we already have to do that. It's called a public information, and we have to file it every year in May, every year. But it's free, it's just one page, and you just file it. And actually, it's part of my I have my income tax, my quarterly. I'm a corporation, my 941s, and that form. My life got a lot better. What I did was I changed my address for my corporation with the IRS to my CPA's address. And that made my life, and just give you that one little tip, that made my life so much better. Because every year I got this horrible letter, you missed this deadline and you're forfeiting your corporation. Kind of like, I don't have time for this. So I just sent them, they all go to my CPA. He fills them out, and in most cases he can sign them too, but he just sends them to me. Sometimes I have to sign them electronically. That's all part of my package. And now I'm always in compliance.
But
He
this is-
takes care of that because he knows.
but this is different than that because Kansas has the same thing. We have an annual reporting that we have to do.
Well, no, but my point is that if you're used to doing it, it's going to be all they want to know is who's behind all these companies. They want to know,
Yeah, who is Finken?
who's the shell? You got a shell corporation. Who owns Zillow? Who owns these companies? They're trying to get to the owners to see if they're foreign, owners, and see that's what they're looking at. I don't think it's any big deal. I think once we get the little direction, what we're talking about before this is way more important than this. This is a formality, I think. So.
All right, guys, we got a couple minutes left. Sharon, I don't know if you're in a spot. I know you coach people. I think your coaching clients are all over the country. Is there anything you've heard or want to add if you're in a spot where you can? And if you can't, that's fine too. But all right. We got a couple minutes left. You guys want to do this again in a couple weeks?
Definitely.
I think we have a moving target here, and we need, if we're going to stay on top of our game, we need to be moving ahead of the pack. And I think we all are hearing things here and there. And so by having our ear to the ground and communicating, and I'm surprised we're not more people on this call. I would have thought it'd been a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But I like this time of day personally. It's 11 o'clock here. It's a good time to do this. So
I tried to pick Pacific Coast and East Coast.
Yeah, no, I like this time of day. I say we do it every 2 weeks, and we're going to learn more, and we're going to learn more. And I can tell you something that's going to happen. I'll predict this: those two huge buildings that NAR owns, they own one in Chicago and they own one in Washington D.C. Each one of them's like 12 to 15 stories. These are $20 million buildings. Those are going to get sold next year. I promise you that.
I see CyberStars at the top of that building. Let's buy them.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. Have you seen the article for that? I think it was a St. Louis building.
Yeah.
Sold 240 million, then it sold for 4.6, and it sold for 3.6.
Yep.
I mean, 98% loss on that building. I think they're going to need to readjust their valuations. I mean, office is in real trouble.
I'm only about 3.55 short on that 3.6 million.
But anyway, but I just think that the opulence, the look of that is not helping the realtor name at all. Having those huge they have a conference room as big as a basketball field, basketball court. in those buildings. It just doesn't look right. It's a wrong message, and that's got to go. You know, so anyway, I'll get off my
All right,
soapbox.
guys. Well, we're at the top of the hour and we're the busiest realtors on the planet. So we'll just do this again in a couple weeks. I think more and more people will make this time, especially after they get over my screw up with the email last 2 weeks ago. They'll start appreciating the one email reminder. So,
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you giving
Yeah,
us.
thanks,
reminder.
Brad, for
Believe
doing
me.
oh
this.
yeah, I mean, like
Okay.
Gil was saying, if I'm gonna stay, if it's a moving target, I want to be talking to the people that are doing it every day, not necessarily just some idealistic message that we're bringing to everybody, you know? So
Yeah.
cool. Love you
All
guys,
right.
man. Thanks
Have
for
a good
showing
week.
up. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.